I'm Tom Spiggle with the Spiggle Law Firm, where we represent people who've been fired or afraid they might be. And this is the Spiggle Spotlight, where I interview legal experts to let folks know what's going on in the news or what they need to know about employment law. And today I am thrilled to be joined by our managing attorney, Francisco Mundaka. Thanks for joining us, Francisco.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tom. Excited to be part of the Spotlight.
All right, great. So what do you want to talk about this morning?
I think we really should put some time into explaining just the very nature of providing notice and putting the employers essentially on notice to know whether there is discrimination afoot or there is a disability that needs to be, where the interactive process needs to begin, and how specific we need to be to put the employers on notice, so that we sort of really put them in a corner where they can't say, well, I didn't know, or you didn't give me proper notice. I think it's something that we see in our cases a lot. And then just the misuse of terms and understanding what they mean, so that way you can effectively communicate with your employer.
Yeah, no, I think that's an excellent point. We were just having a discussion in our chat group yesterday about a matter and we see this a lot, like with employees, like, when do I, say, for example, like when do I disclose a disability, or when do I report discrimination? And there can be reasons. It's a tactical decision. There can be reasons to hold off in any particular instance. That's why it's good to have a lawyer because unless you're in this field, it's kind of hard to navigate those waters. But if you're going to do it, and a lot of people do this on their own, which is fine. To your point, like, put it in writing. Right? Like, I don't know how many cases we've seen where an employer is like, well, we didn't get that notice. We didn't hear about that disability. But if you've got a time-stamped email, or if you've got, a letter that you sent, or if you've got, I think email's probably the best these days, something, to put it in writing, then it becomes much more difficult for an employer to say, hey, we didn't know.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Then it's an issue of credibility. It's essentially your word versus the supervisor, and of course it's easy for them to say, oh, you didn't say it like that,
Right.
And we want to make sure that I think a good place to start here would be to just explain just what discrimination means, maybe the term hostile work environment, retaliation, just briefly. We don't have to go into a
Yeah, we could talk about these things for hours. So, but, yeah, I know they're very deep concepts. But yeah, great. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. So, generally speaking, in discrimination, what we see at the firm is it's related to Title VII, and what that is it's a law that has been enacted federally to protect certain classes of individuals. And this is Congress initiated this because there was a need for protection. For instance, for your gender, your race, your religion. Disability. So there's so many different prongs that are protected, fall under this umbrella. And when we experience some form of discrimination, hopefully we don't, but if there are events when we do, the important thing is that we explain that and we don't have to use necessarily legal jargon. We can say, I'm being treated differently because of the color of my skin, or I'm being treated differently because I'm from this country. And then that alone, because if we just say I'm being discriminated against, which we often see, and it's unfortunate because we want to be clear. That way there is no excuse. That the employer knows what they need to do. They conduct their investigations, the interview, but it provides us sort of that telescope to look into the issue specifically. That also goes to hostile work environment. It's another term that we hear often, but the level that the language that the courts use, severe and pervasive, that is such a high bar. So what does that mean? So it's a hostile work environment. It has to be picture front page of the newspaper. That's really egregious things, and then even the term retaliation. Really. Retaliation for a protected activity. So that could be reporting the discrimination, or maybe you're whistleblowing on another issue, a health issue, or there's so many laws that this can come into, but it's retaliation from a protected activity, not just an act and then they treated you different. That in the real world would be retaliation, but in the legal sense it doesn't.
Yeah, they can be very confusing terms. I think that was a good rundown. And another point, I think, in terms of reporting, and we'll wrap up here because we're getting above our 5 minutes, but I think it's an important one that you raised. Um, by sending this written communication, it doesn't have to be written, but it's best practices. By sending this written communication saying, look, I believe I've been treated differently because the color of my skin or because I'm pregnant or whatever protected category you may be in, you get anti-retaliation protection, even if the court or jury later finds that the underlying discrimination was not illegal, right? So as long as you report in good faith, you can't make it up, but as long as you report in good faith, then you've got a very powerful claim, even if you lose the underlying claim. And again, you have to believe it. It has to be in good faith. But that's why it's so heartbreaking, right? When we see our clients who have had this happen, they didn't report, and they left an arrow in the quiver, right? A really powerful one. And so that's why, even though it can be really heart-wrenching and difficult to raise this with HR or with management, you want to get that anti-retaliation protection. It's a very separate and powerful claim.
Yeah, that's right. It's just important to communicate whether it's discrimination, a disability, or you need an accommodation. We just have to tell our employers. And I know it's scary to do that because we fear retaliation, but at the very least, we have these laws to protect in the event that the bad actors exist.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Francisco, thanks for joining me this morning. Folks can go to our website, spigglelaw.com. We got a lot of good information there if you want more on this. And you can always give us a call. We're happy to help folks. And Francisco, I hope you have a great Friday and a good long weekend.
Yeah, same to you, Tom.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.